Islam, Muslims. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you can, I want everyone to rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer. Islam.
Islam.
If we could have 2 fingers extended on the right, 5 fingers extended on the left, facing the east in the cactus pose with your feet at a 45-degree angle. Islam, and repeat after me. Allah.
Allah.
Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of love. Truth. Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. And my salvation. By night and by day. Through his holy prophet. Drew Ali. Amen.
Amen.
Islam, Muslims. First and foremost, I would like to rise and give highest to highest praise to our Father God Allah, Father of the universe, the creator of everything, the one that made you and the one that made me, Islam. Honors to our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and our nationality. Honors to the forerunner of the prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for paving the way for purity. Honors to all Adepts, Sheiks, and faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple Divine National Movement. Honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh, our brother Emily Ill. He was appointed by the Prophet. Honors to the current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother K. Danges Ill. And let's not forget our brother Emeritus, Brother D. Bailey Ill. Islam. All right, we're going to get started with reading the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. If our brother Kobe is on, he'll read the writs. Islam. Any volunteers to read the additional laws after the writs is read? Anybody?
I can read them.
Islam. Is that Brother Jackson Bey?
Islam.
Islam. Praise Allah. Thank you, brother. All right. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Salvation, Allah, Unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law, enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and partial of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the law of the Constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Ethiopians, or Black people, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national names to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Acts 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and partial of all upliftment acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of the household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. The Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office, Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam,
Islam.
Islamism.
Islam.
Praise Allah, Muslims.
Islam.
Brother Cole Bay, would you go ahead and read the rich for us, brother?
Islam.
Islam.
Arise and give praise, great God Allah. Arise and give praise and honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Rise and give praise to all Moors and Muslims on the line and on the planet to be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do at present, so I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali, and that's why many hearts are turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We offer love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temples or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where the prophet found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islam, praise Allah. Brother Jackson Bay, will you read the additional laws for us, brother?
Islam, praise Allah. Honest to the Prophet, honest to you Muslims. Questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the support of any members, that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restrictions, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their added meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. As I had the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making public speeches, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must conform himself to the questionnaire and let every member exercise his five senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. We appreciate both of you brothers for reading the writs and the additional laws. Before we get started on the 101s, if anyone have any questions, praise Allah. We proceed. Islam.
Islam Moors, thank you all for coming in. Appreciate you all. First, we give praise to Allah and honors to His Prophet. We also give honors to all the faithful Muslims out there, all the faithful on this call. Real quick, just before we go into to discuss the Quran questionnaire, just in case anyone's wondering why we do this, some of you may have heard this before, but I'm still gonna say it anyway. From this is just an excerpt from Manly P. Hall's Freemasonry of the Ancient Egyptians, where basically he's explaining the roots of Freemasonry, where it comes from, and he's letting you know in here where it's highlighted the government of ancient Egypt was theocratic. We all know what theocratic means, right? This is a of or from God, a government that's ran by divine origin, right? Based off of God, based off of your spiritual, your religion. And the pharaoh appeared to be the head of the state, but actually the priests were the governors. They were the ones running the empire. The king was placed on his throne. He was appointed by the priests and maintained there by the priestly influence, the priest class. Now remember, in ancient Egypt, that priesthood, the priest class, the priests of Anu were referred to as Mars or Moors, right? So that priesthood class, they were called Moors. And so he remained there, he or she, the pharaoh, the head of the state, they remained there their whole life under the guardianship and protection of the priesthood. The temples were the sanctuaries of the letters and sciences and learning, and all the branches were cultivated exclusively by the priesthood, right? Because in ancient Egypt, like learning and especially learning up high up science and the truth, about who you are, your connection to divinity and all that, that wasn't just freely, everybody didn't know this. Okay, so this was a privilege to have this type of education. And so it was a theocratic government, and the prophet actually came and returned this to us. Within the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have the structure here. He actually established the government and had it up and running before he made the transition. So what he did with his life was he set the example for us to follow. We're all supposed to imitate the prophet, and he established our government, which is a theocratic constitutional monarchy. So he reestablished our ancient government for us. All right. And so what we're doing here, what we do, especially every Friday and Sunday, we're learning this. We're learning civics, our civics. We're learning our society, our government, our laws. That's why all of that, everything was just read, and it's read at every meeting. And we're going to speak on our Quran questionnaire really quickly. So we last left off question 50. We're doing 51 through 60. And if while we're going through this, if you do have questions, feel free to speak up. You don't have to wait until we're done. You can just stop us right where we're at. Question 51, what have you to say about holy breath? And the answer is all we can say. It is great, it is good, it was, it is, and evermore to be. Does anybody have anything that they want to add to this measure, or any understanding that you may have that you want to share with us?
Islam. I rise and I give praises to Allah, honors to the Prophet, honors to all you Moors in attendance. I just wanted to demonstrate chapter 47. Just first few measures, just sum it up real quick on what I got from what you just said about Egypt. Chapter 47 in the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Egypt, the capital of the empire of the Dominion of Africa. Based off of Africa, how does that
connect to America, or as far as a Mexican Islam. And the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family was second. And then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem. Okay. The first true and divine name of Africa. The dividing of the land between the Father and the Son, Islamism.
Is Islamism. So what what question did you have a question specifically about that measure? Or you
Islam, no,
just wanted to
it just
share
came,
that, build
I
on that?
just wanted to share that as far as like notes. It just came up, to, just for anybody who might need to reference something. Islam.
Islam. And what that brother just shared was key, because when the prophet returned this to us with basically with the Holy Quran or the Moorish Science Temple of America, that's the seventh seal. Okay. And so, and you see that circle 7, but with the prophet returning this into this wisdom to us with that chapter 47, letting us know the first true and divine name of Africa was a Mexim. We can see even in the naming of the continents today, with America, right? And Africa. Like you can literally look at some of the different names here and see how they got mixed up or broken up and configurated, because it's like America. Now this is my interpretation, so just put that on me, not the prophet. But with America, okay, you take the first part, you got a Mexim, America. You take the last part, that's Africa, right? America. You got the Africa. You just put it, it's like when the continent split apart, you took the last part of America and made it a whole new continent. You know, you got Africa, and then the first part is, instead of it being a Mexim, it's America. So that's just that's just how I look at it. But you can actually see these things hidden. They're hidden in sometimes in plain sight, right in front of us. The structure, the way that the government, everything is built here, it shows that we actually descend from this land over here, and that this all was connected. In Ethiopia, I mean, not in Ethiopia, in Ecuador, you had a small pyramid that was found there. It's about a foot tall, and it's got 13 steps on it, just like the one on a dollar. There's also another one that was found there made out of gold. It was a gold sheet, and it has that same 13-step pyramid on it. And at the bottom of it, it's got Ethiopian script on it, written like in the Ethiopian script. And this was found here a long time ago, and they know that it predates the Europeans. And so this was found in Ecuador, and this is not talked about, but it can't be dismissed. And so the evidence is here. And the prophet was returning this knowledge and wisdom to us, specifically to us. All right. Even though the only people who know this are ones who can pay, hundreds and even thousands of dollars for books and maps and things that are hidden. They're getting put off in libraries somewhere so that nobody can see it. The prophet came to us to deliver this information. All right. So that just in that alone, man, that's special. And gonna go ahead and go back in here to question 51.
Islam.
Islam.
I got a question. Why is the holy breath referred to as she when Jesus was talking about holy breath in chapter? I'm looking for it right now, but it says, hold on, I'm trying to read it so y'all could get. And here it go. Chapter I think this is 27. Yeah, chapter 28. And key key 24. It says, I read it out. When she, the holy breath, shall fill the earth and air with holy breath and open up the ways of man to perfection and endless life. Um, why did Jesus in this measure refer to the holy breath as female? And it's the only place where I believe it says the holy breath. Um, I was thinking maybe it had something to do with the higher self being the mother of all virtues. But just for clarification, I just want to understand because if we look at the measures before, it says, what is truth? Truth is art. What is art? Art is a lie. Now we understand Allah being the father, you know what I mean? But then Jesus said the holy breath is a female. So just for clarity, I just wanted to understand that. Islam.
Islam. Okay, so what you said about the holy breath, all right, being the mother of all virtues, being the higher self, that makes sense because when we look at the holy breath, how it's explained in other measures in the Quran, which I'll give some examples, we can see that the holy breath is actually the spirit of Allah. And the spirit of Allah in man, that is the higher self. That's the eternal aspect of you, right? So you can see it being referred to with masculine or feminine principles because ultimately it's beyond that, masculine or feminine. Now, the way that it's used may be able to confer certain aspects of it, but ultimately the spirit of Allah, as far as, man is concerned, Allah and man, the spirit in man or spirit man, that's the higher self. And also the holy breath or the spirit of Allah wouldn't be limited to just spirit man, because the spirit of Allah is activating everything right throughout the universe. So it's from our perspective, it's the higher self in us, but it's also something that unites all the living things. In chapter 10, verse 5 of our Holy Quran, it says, by the sweet breath of Allah, all life is bound in one. So saying by the sweet breath of Allah, all life is bound in one. So this is the spirit of Allah, and it's omnipresent, right? Meaning it's everywhere. The holy breath never had a beginning and it'll never have an end. Time never was when it was not. And that's why it can say time never was when man was not. Why? Because man is not the body. We're not referring to that aspect of man when we're saying time never was when man was not. We're referring to the spirit man or the spirit of Allah, Islam. So that aspect of you, the higher self, is one with Allah. And that's the aspect that's actually connected to everything. And that's also what we were hitting on, I think, Thursday when we was talking about this technique to open the third eye. When you do that consciously, you feel that connection to everything. You feel the cords that bind us to everything. And that's how you know that what's in this Holy Quran is real. That's really, as far as I know, I'm limited to my perspective. The only way to know that it's real is to actually open that third eye consciously. Islam, it's kind of incomprehensible. It's kind of hard, to actually explain it. But once you experience it, it's, that it's realer than anything we're experiencing right now in this world. Islam.
Islam, if I may add to that, to kind of bring a little more wisdom to the question that Brother Jackson Bey asked. When we see the Holy Trinity, right? We see the wisdom, the will, and love. So if we could go back to the front page of our 101s, we see the prophet is holding a sister, and the sister represents humanity. When we look at that and we go back to the brother's question, we do know the Allah is the father of the universe. So that's the masculine aspect. The holy breath is the feminine aspect, Islam. So right there, that's wisdom and will. And what wisdom and will creates is love divine. So that's the mother, the father, and the children, Islam. And that's another reason why they said the prophet said, from your Sunday school comes the leaders of the nation, because this is for the children, and we are all children in the eyes of Allah. So don't all always think that okay, it's for the kids, because we are all Allah's children. So it's for us, Islam. And together, wisdom, will, and love brings that all together in one, so that we could demonstrate love divine in life, Islam.
Islam, praise Allah. You said just to clarify, you said the wisdom is the masculine and the will is the feminine, or vice versa.
I mean, we always say the wisdom comes from the feminine energy, and the will, is masculine. But I
Okay.
mean,
Nah,
it
I just
is what
wanted
it
to
is. Islam.
Islam. Yeah, I just not to cut your wisdom, right? Like, but yeah, I just wanted to, cause I was gonna write that down. I just wanted to write it down, get it correct. Islam.
Islam, and we learned that before, we found a prophet, when we dealing with uh the nation of gods and earths. They always refer to wisdom as the earth, Islam, and the earth is feminine. Islam, I yield the floor.
All right, Islam. So just to reiterate, from this perspective, the holy breath is the spirit of Allah. All right, so um what do we have to say about the holy breath? All we can say is it is great, it is good, it was, it is, and evermore to be. And then that's why the holy breath never had a beginning, will never have an end. That's why time never was when man was not. Why we're talking about the body, the physical man or the lower self that will perish. They had a time when it was created and will perish. Talking about the higher self, which is Allah and man, the spirit of Allah. And then the spirit of Allah is the holy breath, and that's in everything. And that's why in the chapter 10, verse 5, it says, by the sweet breath of Allah, all life is bound in one. The spirit of Allah, that's the holy breath. And everything's connected by it. Um, Going on to question 52. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed? And the answer is in the Garden of Eden. Now, right here, you see the distinction being made, like we just talked about, right? Man is not the body. You're not, that's not all that encompasses you, right? There's also a higher aspect in you. So it's saying what place on earth, physical place, was the physical part of man formed, right? Because you're not the body or the soul. You're a spirit and a part of Allah. And so that distinction is being made because the body is the vehicle that the spirit encompasses to experience this life, this physical life. And the spiritual body has access to infinite knowledge because that's Allah and man. All right, and it's not to be confused with that physical body. So we're given a location. And does anybody want to build on that? 52.
Islam. I just wanted something that just drew my attention. We talking about this. Maybe y'all got deeper insights.
Mhm.
52 weeks. The five on the left, two on five on the right, five on the left, two on the right. That's like 52, right? We facing the five and the two, right? So it's got to be some significance because of the seven. And it says the physical part. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed? But every time they talk of is the physical part of man, is the Garden of Eden, is it really the heart or something? Like I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just a lot of things. I just been thinking just that 52 sparked a lot of things, but y'all might have better, a deeper insight on the Islam. Yeah, the full.
Islam. Now I would have to look deeper into that because I didn't even think about it from that aspect with the five that fell and the two that held true. That's Islam. So now I never looked at it that way, but that makes sense. I mean, I'm just looking at the physical place. Where was the Garden of Eden? You know, and we're just given this distinction because obviously there was a beginning for this physical incarnation, right? So I have to look into deeper, to try to gain some insight on the perspective you coming from. But just leading into 53, where's the Garden of Eden in the land of Canaan, in the city of Mecca? We're given a specific location in the land of Canaan in the city of Mecca, and that's going to be like modern day Saudi Arabia, right? The prophet lets us know that whole peninsula is basically where man encompassed or incarnated into the physical. All right, and that's what it's called, the Garden of Eden. Now, actually, this coincides with most modern historians too, because they're gonna say like that area. Some say like Mesopotamia. So this coincides with a lot of historical research, I guess. But I'm still just looking at the fact that the distinctions being made about the physical body, because we're not the physical body, right? We're a spirit. And before that, we inhabited this place, but we didn't have physical bodies yet. So this was something that had to take place, and it had a physical region where it came about. So we're being given an origin. All right. And then it's important for us to have an origin because as creations of the European, where's our origin? They're just gonna say like everybody came from sub-Saharan Africa. And then what do you have in sub-Saharan Africa? You have Lucy. They'll give us that. They'll say that Lucy, the bones that they found there, which wasn't even a human. It was like a 3.5 foot tall chimpanzee that could walk upright. And they'll say that these are the oldest, you know, um, bones or whatever, the oldest, the oldest, I guess you could say, evidence of, our ancestors. And they'll give that to us, but we know that's not our history. That has nothing to do with us. All right. It wasn't even a human. All right. And it has nothing to do with us. And also, if you look up the term troglodyte nigger, Niger, you'll see a picture of a little upright walking ape. All right. And that's basically what this Lucy character is. And that stuff has nothing to do with us. All right. Nothing at all. Matter of fact, that could actually be put on somebody else because they also say that the troglodytes are the cavemen. So that had nothing to do with us at all. So maybe we could go into that more, further at another time. But we'll go to question 54. What is the modern name for the Garden of Eden? And then we're given the term Mecca. And then, of course,
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Could the prophet be talking about Chicago? Now I know Chicago, Chirac is kind of wild in this era of time or whatever. But could the prophet be talking about Chicago? Because it says, like in 53, Mecca is spelled M with the lowercase ECCA. But right here, it says the modern name of the Garden Eden is Mecca, capital. So that right there, a change happened. It's a difference right there. So we might have to like, I don't know if you got any deeper knowledge on that, but I
Islam.
was just studying just by looking at it, and then like And this time, we don't, in the time of the prophet, the way language was, that's why we got to look at this stuff from like the 1828. I just downloaded that too, the 1828 and the 1913 dictionaries, and try to understand terms, and like maybe because in the German language, when you capitalize a name or figure or anything like that, that's how they say it's a noun. But I was just saying, why would it be capitalized in that point and not in the point before? Maybe was the prophet trying to leave us a clue for the third and fourth generations? Islam.
Islam. So, I mean, I'll put it like this. You may be able to like find an acronym in that MECCA and apply it to Chicago or something like that. But when you look in the Quran on page 2, where you see the Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Saud, the descendant of Hagar, now the head of the holy city of Mecca. And then it's all caps, MECCA. And it's pretty obvious what Mecca he's talking about, when you look at this and see what was going on. Also, when we did the history just of what was going on in the late 1800s and early 1900s, where there was like a shift in power in that region, it's kind of, from my perspective, it's kind of obvious he was actually talking about Mecca over there in the area we call the Middle East today. And that's also why he's got the Sultan, who was at that time the head of the holy city of Mecca, in the Quran, right, on page 2. So I would take that, to say that he's referring to the place that is modern day, in the modern day is called Mecca, which is Mecca and Medina. Islam. Now, if he didn't do that, I guess, to me, it would be up, for question, because could say, well, maybe that meant something. But I mean, he actually put the Sultan, which is where Saudi Arabia came from, So his name was Saud, or his last name, family name. So it actually came from him. So to me, that makes it kind of unquestionable that he was talking about Mecca. But like you said, who knows? In the future, our understanding of portion may change on that, or it may take on a grander meaning for us. Islam? All right. And yeah, so hang on. All right, we're on 54. Sorry. So yeah, for me, it's kind of obvious. He's talking about actually Mecca, where the Kaaba is and all that, where Muslims still to this day make the pilgrimage to Mecca. All right, and then moving on to question 55. What is the name of the first physical man? And the answer is his name cannot be used only by the executive rulers of the ADEP chamber of the MST of A. Islam, does anybody have any questions about that? Wondering about that, why this is worded like that?
Islam, just a little bit. Like, do you have to go through like a certain form of an adapt chamber to have the understand the name? Islam.
You know what? Like even with the adapt chamber, there's levels to it. Like there's a first, second, and third heaven, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. So yeah, there's levels to the adapt chamber. But just with this, you could, from the way that this is worded, you could take that there's power in understanding this and knowing this. And this is why this name isn't supposed to be used except for people who aren't slaves to sin, people who have an understanding of the power in that. Now, pretty much for the most part, most nations or cultures have their own stories or their own traditions about who the first man was. Looking at China, ancient China, the first man was Pan Ku. and they actually show him covered in leaves, same way that they do with Adam and Eve. The ancient Libyans had Iarbas, Arbas, Iarbas. He was the earliest of men who sprang into existence in the heart of Libya. In Persia too, they had the first man who was called Geomart. And this is something that all the ancient records of every nation, they all mention the first man or the primordial man. And so this is a universal truth that there actually was indeed a first man, and the first man was created. So he wasn't born. So that's telling us that, from this perspective, that as far as Allah incarnating into the physical realm for that first creation, it wasn't born through the birth canal, which is what all of us, all humans come through the mother's womb and have the umbilical cord. So the first physical being was created. The body was created. They tell us in Genesis, created out of the earth. Right. And that's not the only tradition that has that story, being created out of the earth. And also the first, you can take from that, the first physical man didn't have a lower self. And we could take that from the questionnaire number 64, where it's saying that 64 says, give the names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. And then that's the lower self: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. So this is, you can take from that the first man didn't have a lower self. So it was kind of like, almost like an experiment, for God to create the humans, or the human experience. First, they didn't have a lower self, and then that came about later on, right? So he didn't have a human nature, right? It was all higher self, or it was always connected, connected to Allah. And then the disconnect is something that came about later. Islam. All right, so moving on, question 56. What are the words AC of the Moorish MST of A? And that's Adab Chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America, third heaven. Anybody have any questions about that? All right. So the basically the Adab Chamber, this is something that the Prophet created for us as a way of you could say returning the wisdom, ancient wisdom and knowledge from our ancestors. In many ways, the same traditions that we had in ancient civilizations like Egypt, where they had the ancient mystery system or the ancient mystery schools. And with the Adab chamber, like an Adab is supposed to be somebody who's highly skilled in the spiritual science of human transmutation. All right. Somebody who unfolds the mysteries by the spiritual regeneration of mankind. All right. And so ideally, people who are entering the Adab chamber, these are people who are, have a sincere desire to gain a mystical understanding of truth and to expand their awareness of the reality. Islam, unless somebody has questions, we'll move on to 57. Islam. All right, so 57. Who were Adam and Eve? They're the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. Now you see that's plural. Just like we're saying before, we're saying the first physical man, and he didn't have a lower self. The lower self came about later, the descendants of Adam and Eve. So this is letting you know that, like, even the first physical man wasn't just one person. And Adam and Ere one man and woman. These were people, right? It's plural. The mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims, right? So it's not two individuals. And I mean, you can see that it's hinted at in the book of Genesis in the Bible when they let you know there were other people on earth with Adam and Eve, right? They don't explain it. But God created the first man and created Eve, and they had a son, and then their son winds up killing his brother and gets banished, and he finds a wife and starts a family. There's other people, right? So Adam and Eve were people, and this is plural. This is used to signify a certain amount of people or group of people on earth. Islam. And you see also that they're Asiatics and Muslims, and that's who we are. So this is letting you know this is our lineage. We're the original people. We're the first people to, to incarnate into the flesh. The first humans. All right, because all humans come from Adam and Eve, theoretically, and this we also understand that Adam and Eve is not just one man and woman. These are people. So everybody comes through us. Everybody comes from us. Islam. So moving on to 58. Where did they go? And then the answer is they went into Asia. One perspective like that I bring to that, just looking at this, is that Asia was a name that was given to the physical world, right? From a Kabbalah perspective, you had Asia, and that was the name for this whole physical world. And from that perspective, then I look at the word Asiatics, and it makes sense that okay, we're the original people. We're the first ones to incarnate into the physical realm. Islam. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to that, or any questions? All right. And also too, in from a historical perspective, the area that we're told about, the area that's now called Saudi Arabia, right? This is where the prophet said used to be ancient Canaan. All of that area, even up through North Africa, Libya, Egypt, all of that was considered Asia. All right, all of that. So Asia wasn't just what we see or what we call Asia today, where you're just referring to China and Japan and Korea and all that. Asia was encompassing all of that, like North Africa, the whole Middle East. The Middle East is actually Africa. All of that was considered Asia. All right. And so this is just letting you know that also that they inhabited that area, that portion of the world. Islam. All right. So question 59. What is the modern name given to their children? And then since they're our ancestors, we're Asiatics. That's the answer. All right. And so that really has nothing to do. It's not like we're trying to claim Chinese or Japanese. We understand that this is an older term, even predating these modern terms or modern definitions like Chinese and people who consider themselves Asian now. All right. And this definition also it's all encompassing because it includes pretty much everyone except for Europeans. All right. It's huge. It's humongous. it's actually like this great unifier, because the prophet teaches us there's only two races, and that's the Asiatic and the Europeans. All right. So let's see. Unless somebody has questions, we just, oh yeah, we have one more. Just who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? And then the answer is the angels. And when the prophet was saying today, obviously he was talking about the past for us, almost 100 years ago. Talking about 1927, 1928. So when you look at who was guarding the holy city of Mecca at that time, it was the people who were under the Sultan, who's we were just talking about, Sultan Abdul Aziz bin Saud, who Saudi Arabia is named after. He was the Sultan, and Mecca was under his guard. And actually, at that time, you couldn't even enter Mecca unless you were a Muslim. Like, they didn't really like let Europeans in. It's not like it is today, right? So it actually, and he was also integral in reestablishing that and um, strengthening Islam in that area. So this is what was going on at that time, and the prophet was basically referring to them as the protectors of Mecca. All right, and this is before Europeans totally took control of that area. All right. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or any questions?
Islam, I did want to say, when we really look at the keys, we could see that the prophet explained our descend and then showed us how we ascend. You know, he showed us, that we're descendants of Adam and Eve, and we know that Adam and Eve, as far as the first man and woman or groups of people, we see that, when the spirit, you know, was dipped in soul and garbed in flesh, that was our descend, Islam. And now that we're here and we're awake, we're the angels and we're here to deliver the message, Islam.
Islam, because the angels are the ones that carry the message to the four corners of the world, to all the nations, right? That's I believe that's question 38. So at that time, the prophet's time, he was referring to the Sultan, right? Saud and his Wahhabi brothers. They're the ones who were guarding the holy city of Mecca. Okay, but yeah, in the modern day, we're the angels because we're carrying the messages to the four corners of the world. Islam, and our Mecca is Chicago. Islam.
Islam. And as far as key 56 is concerned, I can't believe no one has any questions about why the Adept Chamber of the Mordecai Temple of America is referred to as third heaven. Because that's always a question. I'm like, well, where's the first heaven? Where's the second heaven? Islam. We learned with Brother Emeritus D. Bailey Ill that man only came through three heavens. We only existed on three planes. That's the spirit plane, the soul plane, and this plane here. And when we become adepts, we go through the chamber, and that's our third heaven here. Islam. Hopefully that clears it up for our brothers and sisters on the call.
Islam. Thank you for sharing that. Before we go into the closing, I do want to open the floor to questions. See, we have someone new on here too. Don't feel like shy. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Islam, praise Allah. If there is no questions or further comments, I would like to close the meeting. Islam. All meetings are to be open and closed according to Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If we can all rise, face the east, back in the cactus pose. 2 fingers extended on the right, 5 fingers extended on the left. Excuse me, brothers and sisters, before we go into the closing prayer, we did want to have a reading of the divine warning by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Brother Thomas Bay, will you read that for us, please?
Islam. First I rise, giving the highest praise to Allah, praises to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to all you Moors on the call. A divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitutions, are all one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classified as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of the free national government and cling to names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state and mind of their forefathers, divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and the earth, and it comes only through the connection to the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under a free national constitution of their state's government and not under granted privilege, as has been the existing conditions for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those who know law in City Hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the light. Money does not make the man. It is a free national standards and power that makes a man in a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver, and commerce belongs to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling all true citizens that stand for a free national government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all American citizens of the United States of America. Help me save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of their government. I am depending on your support to get them back into the constitutional fold again, and they will learn to love instead of hate and live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standards, because day by day they have been violating the national constitutional laws of their government by clinging to names and principles that are unconstitutional. If the Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike. In all governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to the citizens of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro alludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word color alludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and the South into unity, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law was in force since 1774, declared all men equal and free. And if all men were declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving cardinal customs and merely ideas of men that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America. because they know it is not the true divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc. In their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world, they will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerners for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined the conditions there. And it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for their moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of the darkness into the marvelous light from the prophet. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islam, brother. Gratitude. Praise Allah. Any further questions or comments before I go ahead and go into the closing prayer? Islamism. If everyone could rise, face the east for the closing prayer. We're going to stand with our feet at a 45. 2 fingers up on the right, 5 fingers up on the left in the cactus pose. You do not have to repeat after me out loud, but I do recommend you repeat after me silently to self. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam.
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 Peace.
Peace and love.
Islam, Mars. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Have a
Peace
wonderful
and
week,
love, more.
and we'll meet again for Holy Day. Praise Allah.
All right. Peace and love.
Wow.
Love.